Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Composy, and welcome to my very first video expressing my own thoughts and observations. And there's going to be plenty of rants on different topics. And I am calling this channel That's It, That's All. And the reason why I'm calling it that, some of you may be wondering, like, that's a little bit, that's a little audacious. That's it, that's all. But the reason I'm calling it that is, first of all, I thought it was kind of catchy. And secondly, I am one who holds strong opinions. And like many of us in the world do, when we kind of dig our heels into something, we don't really change our minds too much regarding different topics. And so I just decided to call it That's It, That's All. So I wanted it to be a forum and a channel where we can discuss different things of all kinds of variety and topic. Everything from television shows, current and past, movies, music, a lot of political topics, because I am a political junkie. But just about everything. We'll be talking about it all. I plan on even having videos on here about some of my own personal interests, which are many and varied. But anyway, with all that said, please feel free to comment, to like or dislike on a video. All of that just keeps us engaged and keeps us moving forward as a community of people. And that's what I'm looking to do, is kind of build a community of like-minded individuals who, well, not just like-minded individuals, but people who are like-minded in a way of, we are open to hearing from other people, and we want to hear from other people, and most of all, we are intellectually curious. That is the type of channel that I seek to have. So with all of that, I'll go ahead and get right into the topic that I want to discuss today, and I will be discussing many a day, hopefully in the weeks, months, and years to come. And actually, before I start, just a huge shout out to fellow YouTuber Hey Sherelle, My View, My Opinion. I absolutely adore her channel, and just like with anyone, while I do not agree 100% with her opinions and her views, it's always a delight to listen to her, particularly what she brings to the table as far as her knowledge of The View, its inner workings, and the people that work behind the scenes. It's really fascinating to listen to as a longtime lover and listener viewer of The View. I've actually been watching that show ever since I was very, very young, ever since it first came out. I am what is considered to be an older millennial, 34 years old, born in 1984. And so I actually was around and watching The View when it was out, unlike some other people. Abby. But anyway, so yeah, it's a huge shout out to her. She really has inspired me to create my channel. I really didn't know there was such a huge community of people who really love The View, particularly within my own demographics. So I just found that to be very inspiring and very eye-opening, and I thought that, I will go ahead and discuss not only just that show, but many others, because there really does seem to be a community of people who have these same interests. So big shout out to her for that inspiration. So I watched The View today, like hopefully many of you did. And while I have not watched anyone else's videos, I haven't even checked out Kay Sherelle's channel today. I just had a couple of thoughts on the show overall. For me, it was a rather boring show outside of when they were talking about Auntie Maxine and Steve Mnuchin and that whole debacle of a congressional hearing. And I say debacle not because I believe that it was a debacle on both sides. Unlike Meghan McCain, I don't think that I don't see how any Republican could take a victory lap in the way Mr. Mnuchin, or Mnuchin, however you say it, in the way he behaved. I could see people taking a victory lap in what Maxine Waters had to say, or just the fact that she's up there, because that is quite an accomplishment for Congresswoman Waters. So that is just my own little take on that whole thing. But her smackdown to Mr. Mnuchin, I thought, was quite incredible. And that is the Auntie Maxine that I have known and loved for, over 20 years now. I remember first being introduced to Congresswoman Maxine Waters in Jet magazines and Ebony, like way back in 1993. And she has always been fiery, and she has always been feisty, and she has always been very direct in what she has to say. And anyone who's like that, whether I agree with them or I don't agree with them, I can always admire it, as long as it's coming from the right place. And I believe that she comes from the right place. In her, it's like what they call a righteous anger. The things that she's angry about, she has a right to be angry about. To Sonny's point about Mr. Mnuchin showing disrespect and more or less trying to take power away from the Congresswoman in that hearing by, basically telling her, well, you need to go ahead and wrap this up because I'm done talking and I got other things to do that are clearly more important than this hearing. And Sonny asked the question, would he have treated a man like that? And I think we all know the answer to that is no. Now, maybe there are some men that he would have talked to like that, but that exchange would have gone very differently, I think, had it been another Congress member. And I love the way that Congresswoman Waters handled it personally. I love her style. But I really don't think that he would have spoken to a man like that. I was also a little bit, I don't think confused is the right word, but Abby really came out the gate hot when she was talking about the Congresswoman and the Congresswoman's lack of decorum. And I believe she literally said something to the effect of, when I think of decorum, I don't think of Maxine Waters. I don't think I have ever heard her be so upset about a politician's lack of decorum as when she was discussing the Congresswoman. Not only that, she totally misrepresented what the Congresswoman said in relation to people having the right to speak with and even protest members of Congress should they see them in public. She completely misrepresented that. The Congresswoman did not advocate for anyone to go up to someone while they are in the middle of their surf and turf and to disrupt their meal and to tell them they don't belong there. That is not what she said. And that is not at all what she was intimating. And I believe that Abby knows that. That was very disingenuous. And I think that is the reason that a lot of us are having a problem with Abby on that panel. As much as Meghan is annoying, or as annoying as she is, we definitely know her brand of conservatism. It's a firebrand of conservatism. It's a very much in-your-face brand of conservatism. Abby's conservatism is disingenuous. I don't know when exactly that started, because she used to be on a panel on MSNBC. Perhaps you guys remember that show. It was called The Cycle, and it was herself, Teray, Crystal Ball, Steve Kornacki, and S.C. Cupp, as well as Abby. And when she was on that show, and I believe this was around maybe 2009, 2010-ish, somewhere in there. When she was on that show, she was not at all she was much more clear about where she stood politically, and she was much more even-handed about it. I'm not sure if this has to do with her being pregnant or the hormones or whatever that some other people have theorized about. I don't know anything about that. I mean, I don't, obviously, and everybody says this, we don't know anything about these people at all, but I have seen her before on television outside of Fox. She was on a quote unquote liberal channel, And she was not like this on that show. And that show came on every day, and I watched it every day. She was nothing like she is on The View. And I think that just gets to the point that just because somebody is not a good fit for The View doesn't mean that they cannot be a good panelist or they're not a good fit elsewhere. Sometimes they're just not a good fit for that particular format, or maybe that particular group of panelists, that particular group of women. And I personally believe that Abby falls within that latter category. I really also appreciated Anna Navarro's smackdown of Abby, and yes, it was a smackdown, because she took her time and she rebutted and refuted every single point that Abby was trying to make about decorum. Absolutely, we are supposed to look to our president as a leader. There's an old saying, the fish always rots from the head. I'm a little surprised with Abby being a religious person, having been raised Mormon, and knowing how most religions feel about leadership and the importance thereof, that she would feel that we can ignore the leader of the free world and focus on Congresswoman Maxine Waters, representing Compton, I believe. Is it Compton, or is it Inglewood, or is it all of them? I forget. I live in California, but I live up north. That level of both sidisms and hypocrisy is just, for me, it's too much to deal with, and it's too much to bear. And I think that a lot of us feel that way based upon comments that I read on other channels. Next, I wanted to talk about Meghan and her little special time that she had towards the end of the Hot Topics segment. Meghan also engages in that both sidism. As a matter of fact, she does it a lot more than Abby does. And as I said earlier in this video, I cannot for the life of me see why any Republican would take a victory lap after that hearing. She said, Meghan, that is, said, well, if you were on one side, you took a victory lap. If you were on the other side, you took a victory lap. As I stated earlier, I can see why you would take a victory lap as a Democrat. It's been a long time coming. And to see Maxine Waters, a woman of her age, of her stature, of her legacy, to hold the power of the Granville, as Mr. Mnuchin put it, the Granville, I guess he meant to say gavel, to hold the power of that is really an amazing thing. And so I think Democrats should be cheering. But as a Republican, I cannot imagine why you would. He was completely disrespectful, smug, arrogant, and entitled. Mr. Mnuchin's time was no more important than any other person in that hearing. I know that's what he would have everyone believe based upon the way that he acted. But I'm here to tell you, it's not so. It isn't. And unless that meeting was an emergency, and it didn't seem to be because it did seem to be planned, I don't see what the issue was with him scheduling around it or rescheduling. Can you imagine if Hillary Clinton in that Benghazi hearing, I forget what the time was that she testified, 13 hours, some crazy amount of time. Can you imagine if she had said, well, listen, I'm going to need you to go ahead and bang that little gavel you got up there because I got to go. I got other things to do. Could you imagine the banners on Fox and CNN, headlines in the New York Times and the Post and everywhere else? There is definitely a double standard in our society for sure. I cannot imagine any official out of the Obama administration saying something like that and getting away with it. Lastly, I just wanted to kind of touch on what to me seemed to have been Meghan's half-aid apology. She said something to the effect of, oh, well, I know, everybody has bad behavior sometimes. And, even I, do things sometimes and it's disappointing behavior, et cetera, et cetera. Something I'm not getting all the words exactly right. I didn't write them down, but it was something to that effect. And the way that it came out to me listening, and I consider myself to be a critical listener, it came out as if it was a half-aid apology. And you guys know what I'm saying there. And if that's what it was meant to be, and I don't know if that was something that was set up by the producers or if that was of her own will and volition or whatever, but if that's what it was meant to be, she's going to have to do a lot better than that with the amount of abuse that she has subjected her co-panelists to, and also the viewers in the studio audience and the viewers at home. We deserve a lot better than that. Now, some people are not good at apologizing. They have a very hard time with that. Meghan strikes me to be one of those kind of people. I don't know her, but based upon her attitude and things that I've seen for several years now, not just on The View, way before then, when she was on the campaign trail and everything else, her father, she might be one of those kind of people that has a hard time apologizing and accepting that type of responsibility, in particular if it has to be done in public. And if that's the case, then what I really suggest is that she writes, or that someone writes for her, she approves, of course, an open letter apology to, again, her co-host, to the studio audiences that she has berated or made to feel uncomfortable when they didn't applaud, or when the one or two people did applaud for her. And then again, by extension, the viewers at home. I am not one who is easily embarrassed, and I have to tell you, when Meghan lashes out like she's been doing at Joy Behar, that really, really, really has been getting under my skin in a way that's hard for me to really describe, because I do not know either one of these women. But here's what I do know. Meghan McCain is about a year or two older than me. Her father, God rest his soul, when he passed away, he was an older gentleman. And I also know that Joy Behar is an older woman. She's about 76 years old. I do not understand how someone of Meghan's age and understanding age the way that she should, because of her father, and understanding why we should respect these people, I cannot for the life of me understand how she feels so comfortable snapping and really trying to humiliate and embarrass Joy at that table the way that she does. That has gotten under my skin in a way that nothing else ever has on The View. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, I've been a viewer of The View for a very long time now. I've taken my sabbaticals. I've taken my breaks here and there when the panel was not something I was gelling with as a viewer. And we'll get more into that at a later date and time in another video. But her treatment of Joy, Meghan's that is, and the way that she continues to go after her, we all deserve a much better and a much more humble and contrite apology than what I believe that we got today. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe that's not what she was doing. But if you go back and you listen to it, I think you're going to hear it if you didn't the first time. So you guys let me know, if you heard it or if you didn't down in the comments. I think that was pretty much it. I thank you guys so much for listening. Please comment, like, or dislike the video. Let me know what you think either way. I appreciate it. And that's it. That's all.